First wave of a tsunami is believed to have struck two of the southern islands after the strong earthquake. Look at those visuals. It's not a glitch in the visuals. This is the amount of magnitude, the high magnitude that was witnessed that has sent the country shaking. Hualiliu Lake in Taiwan shows violent shaking. This is Taiwan visuals that are on your screen. Violent shake as live webcams captured the moment of 7.5 magnitude, followed by aftershocks, and aftershocks also measuring not at a lower scale, but 7.4 and 6.5 Richter on the magnitude on the scale. I want to immediately bring in our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan for the latest on that. Geeta, this of course is a reminder of the tsunami that had hit earlier as well, specifically in the subcontinent. But what are you hearing precisely? What happened? When did this earthquake and tsunami happen? And what is the region looking like right now?
The reports that are coming in clearly says that multiple buildings have collapsed. Any earthquake beyond 7 on the Richter scale, Pooja, would mean a devastating impact on the area where the epicenter is. Now, we're given to understand that it's the Hualiliu Lake in Taiwan, where there has been massive movement of the quake, and the aftershocks that followed were also measuring between 7.4 and 6.5 on the Richter scale. So houses and buildings are damaged and have collapsed in Taiwan after this massive earthquake. And yes, Japan, as also Taiwan, have issued tsunami alerts for the areas around where the earthquake took place. In Japan, particularly for the southern islands. This is going to be serious. We have to wait and see what the damage and the loss is. But the visuals that are coming in of the earthquake clearly show that the magnitude beyond 7.7 was really high, and you can see swaying of buildings, but also a massive damage with collapsed buildings as well.
Geeta, do tell us, in a situation when tsunami hits, we've all seen what has happened, specifically even in the Indian Ocean region, in the southern part of India and Sri Lanka, Thailand, Indonesia, when it had happened a few years ago, 2004, if I'm correct. But at this juncture, what sort of preparations do you think can be done? Because Japan, Taiwan are in that belt. Do you think that they would have some arrangements in place? Because, you know, and I don't want to say it, but the fact is when tsunami hits, it's very difficult to escape it.
Well, Pooja, these are areas that are on those tectonic plates where they are susceptible to earthquakes. The first thing that these countries have done is to ensure that, you know, most of their buildings can withstand earthquakes even up to 7 on the Richter scale. In Japan, not so long ago, you saw an earthquake that hit an area in Japan, which was about 7 on the Richter scale, and yet you saw swaying of buildings, but none of the buildings really collapsed. So they make sure that their buildings are earthquake resistant.
Okay.
The infrastructure is earthquake resistant, but tsunamis and earthquakes cannot be predicted way in advance.
Correct.
That's a major disadvantage of these areas, these countries, which face earthquakes on a very regular basis. We're being told reports that are coming in is Japan's Okinawa airport has suspended air flight operations after the tsunami alert. So situation does look quite tense and serious. Again, these are all precautionary measures that countries take. And with people, the alerts have been sounded out.
So we'll be tracking the latest on that. It's a developing story. We, of course, hope that everyone's safe. But in Taiwan, there has been a massive earthquake of about 7.5 magnitude on the Richter scale. Plus, there's a tsunami alert that has been sent out across Japan. Thank you, Geeta Mohan, for all the latest.
里面有没有人？赶快离开！里面还有人吗？哎，那个不要摸那个电线，很危险。
with these visuals because it appears that the situation there is turning slightly grave, because let's just help you understand what's happening. This is Taipei, Taiwan visuals where the warning first of the tsunami has been issued after a massive earthquake. Take a look at that visual when the live webcam starts to shake. We are told that this was, and while Japan and Taiwan have been used to it, but this powerful earthquake have hit. But it's not just about the earthquake. When the aftershocks came, the earthquake that was 7.5 magnitude, the aftershocks were as high at about 7.5 and over 6 on the Richter scale. Joining me now is journalist Bing Wong for the latest on that. Mr. Wong, can you help us understand what is the situation like? There's been a high magnitude earthquake, then there is a tsunami alert that has been also sent out. What is the situation looking like? What happened on the ground?
Right, so a 7-point earthquake hit eastern Taiwan in the city of Hualien. That's where most of the damage has been done. We've seen multiple collapsed buildings in that city. So far, we haven't heard any body that's been injured or have been or died so far. But the shocks were felt everywhere throughout Taiwan, and we're still feeling aftershocks. Even almost 1.5 hours after the initial earthquake.
Mr. Wong, tell me this, what time did this earthquake come? And if you can help me understand to the viewer watching, what did it feel like? Because 7.5 magnitude is on a very high scale. Was everything around shaking? Was it very clear that this is going to be a big earthquake that's happened?
Yeah, so I live on the 7th floor in a 1950s built building, and it was shaking very hard for about a minute and a half. All of my books from my bookshelf fell off my bookshelf. My dishes were falling onto the floor. I could hear my neighbors screaming. Car alarms were sounding outside. And this is just in Taipei, where it's still hundreds of kilometers away from the epicenter of the earthquake.
And that perhaps reflects how so serious and how perhaps close to the surface this could have been. My final question, Mr. Wong, is how prepared is the Taiwan administration? Because if Japan has also given a tsunami alert, there's clearly a lot that the people and the governments will have to be ready with. What are you picking up on the sort of understanding that the government may have, the arrangements that should be or would be being made, and are people already trying to evacuate their residents or they are staying put?
The government is giving a press conference right now, and they're talking about how we are going to feel aftershocks after throughout the entire day today. They are trying to find if there are any injured people at the epicenter of the earthquake. Yes. I do believe the Taiwanese government will be able to handle this situation because Taiwan frequently gets a lot of earthquakes.
Yes.
But this is the strongest one in 25 years. But like I said before, Taiwan is prone to earthquakes, so I think the Taiwanese government will be able to handle this one and its aftershocks.
Mr. Bing Wong, I appreciate you joining us. Stay safe, and let's hope that this is the end of it. But we'll be tracking here from India about the developing story coming in from Taiwan and in Japan as well. Look how the buildings have collapsed, and clearly the nature's fury felt by those inside, even and specifically likely on the higher floors of the residential buildings.
那个瓦斯有瓦斯